There exists in every human heart a secret chamber, a place where the most delicate truths are stored. Most men and women guard this place with iron doors and heavy locks, believing that to reveal its contents would be to risk rejection, ridicule, or loss. Yet in that chamber lies the very seed of power, the seed from which love, trust, and enduring partnership are born. Understand this truth, for it is not weakness to open one's heart, it is strength of the highest order. Love begins with vulnerability, and vulnerability is not surrender, but the highest form of courage. Consider the story of the woman who whispered, "I've never shared a bed." Those words, simple and soft, carried more weight than 1,000 shouts. They were not a confession of inadequacy, but a testament to endurance. A soul who had walked alone through nights of silence, who had endured the cold absence of companionship, dared at last to give voice to her longing. That whisper was not weakness, it was the rarest form of bravery. And in that whisper lay an opportunity, for every relationship begins when one soul dares to reveal itself and trusts that another will respond with understanding. There is no greater strength in life than the ability to reveal one's true self. Men often believe that strength is measured by how well they conceal their emotions, how tightly they guard their fears, or how firmly they refuse to admit loneliness. Women, too, may be taught that silence is safer than truth, that to confess need is to invite harm. But those who live behind walls of silence are prisoners of their own making. They walk through life armored, yet unfulfilled, believing that to protect themselves is to be secure, when in reality, they are starving the very essence of love. Understand this, no empire was built without risk, no fortune was amassed without daring, and no love was ever born without the leap of vulnerability. The woman who whispered her truth gave more than words, she gave the key to her heart. She invited another to step into her sacred chamber, to see her unshielded and unadorned, and in that act, she displayed the greatest power a human being can possess, the power to trust. Trust is the soil from which all love grows. Without it, relationships are barren deserts. With it, even the smallest seed of affection can bloom into a garden that nourishes two souls for a lifetime. Now consider the man who received her words. His answer was simple, "Now you'll never sleep alone." But within that answer was more than comfort, it was commitment, affirmation, and a vow of presence. He recognized the treasure she had offered him in her vulnerability, and he responded not with judgment or hesitation, but with assurance. This is the eternal dance of love. One heart dares to reveal itself, and the other chooses to protect, honor, and nurture what has been revealed. In that exchange, the miracle of love is born. Too many people walk this earth in silence, afraid to speak their truth. They fear that if they admit loneliness, they will appear desperate, if they confess desire, they will appear weak. But this fear is a thief. It steals from them the very experiences they long for most. It is the silent killer of intimacy, the silent assassin of love. Think of the countless relationships that fail, not because two people are incapable of loving, but because they are unwilling to reveal their needs. A marriage without vulnerability is but a contract of convenience. A friendship without vulnerability is a surface interaction, empty of depth. A life without vulnerability is a lonely prison, no matter how many people surround you. Let us examine this principle deeper, for it governs not only love, but success in all realms of human experience. Vulnerability is openness, and openness is the channel through which all great things flow. When an inventor dares to share his idea, though others may laugh, he creates the chance for innovation. When a leader dares to admit he does not have all the answers, he invites collaboration and builds trust. When a soul dares to whisper its loneliness, it creates the possibility of connection. In every case, the act of revealing is the act of building. To hide is to decay, to reveal is to grow. The story of the woman and the man, then, is not merely a tale of romance. It is a demonstration of a universal law, that the first step toward receiving is giving, and the first gift we must give is the gift of our authentic self. When she whispered her truth, she gave him her heart in its rawest form. When he promised she would never sleep alone, he accepted the gift and responded with one of his own. This exchange is the foundation upon which all enduring love is built, two souls daring to share their truth and pledging to honor what has been shared. But why, you may ask, do so few people dare this? Because the world teaches us to fear rejection more than we desire connection. From childhood, many are told not to cry, not to show weakness, not to let others see the depths of their feelings. This conditioning builds layers of armor around the heart. By the time adulthood arrives, the armor is so thick that even when love appears, the heart cannot be reached. Yet the irony is this: the very armor that protects us from pain also blocks us from joy. To live armored is to live half dead. To live vulnerable is to live fully alive. The woman's whisper shattered her armor. In that moment, she chose life over fear. And because she dared, she received. This is the eternal truth: life responds to boldness, but love responds to vulnerability. Boldness may win wars and fortunes, but only vulnerability wins hearts. A man may conquer the world, yet still lie awake at night alone, if he cannot conquer his fear of being seen. A woman may achieve every success, yet still feel the ache of emptiness, if she cannot whisper her deepest truth to another. But when boldness and vulnerability walk hand in hand, there lies the secret of a life both rich and deeply loved. You must understand, my friend, that every great achievement in human history has demanded vulnerability. When explorers set sail into unknown seas, they exposed themselves to danger, ridicule, and uncertainty, yet it was through that risk that they discovered new worlds. When visionaries declared their ideas, they opened themselves to doubt and criticism, yet it was through that openness that progress was made. And when a lonely heart whispers its truth, it risks rejection, but it is through that risk that love is born. There is no progress without exposure, no reward without risk, no love without vulnerability. The whisper, "I've never shared a bed," could have been met with silence. It could have been dismissed, mocked, or ignored. That is always the risk of vulnerability. But the man who heard it understood that to be entrusted with such truth was a privilege, not a burden. He chose to honor it, and in doing so, he gained not just a companion for the night, but a partner for the journey of life. This is the lesson: when someone entrusts you with their vulnerability, you have been given the greatest treasure of all. Guard it, nurture it, and you will discover that love deepens in ways you never imagined. There will be those who scoff at this, who believe that love must be built upon strength alone, that to confess need is to diminish oneself. Such individuals may succeed in business, in politics, in battle, but they fail in the arena of the heart. For the heart is not conquered by dominance, it is opened by tenderness. The woman who dared to whisper her truth was stronger than any who hide behind masks of indifference. The man who dared to respond with a promise was greater than any who believe that silence is safety. Together, they discovered the essence of love, two souls standing unguarded, yet unafraid. If you would know the fullness of love, you must dare to be vulnerable. Dare to speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. Dare to confess your need, even if you fear rejection. Dare to whisper, "I have never shared a bed," or whatever truth resides in your heart, for only by giving voice to it can you invite another soul to step forward and say, "Now you'll never be alone." The courage to reveal is the key that unlocks the door to connection. And once the door is opened, love will enter, bringing with it warmth, companionship, and the assurance that your nights of solitude are over. The greatest tragedy is not rejection, but silence. The greatest failure is not to be refused, but to never try. The woman who whispered dared to try, and in that daring, she gained a lifetime. So too may you, if you will but dare. Love begins with vulnerability, and vulnerability is the doorway to all that is most beautiful in life. Guard your heart if you must, but understand that a guarded heart will never taste the sweetness of true love. Open your heart, reveal your truth, and you will find that the world has been waiting, not to mock you, but to embrace you. Love begins with vulnerability. And when you dare to reveal, you will discover that life itself whispers back, "Now you will never be alone." When a man or woman speaks a promise from the heart, they create a bridge between what is and what can be. A promise is not merely words, it is a force, a vibration, a living current that reaches into the soul of another and plants the seed of faith. In that moment, solitude is transformed into companionship, despair into hope, and emptiness into fulfillment. Words, when spoken as idle chatter, fall to the ground and vanish like dust in the wind. But words spoken as a vow become spirit, and spirit has the power to move mountains, heal wounds, and awaken love where there was only silence. Think of the moment when she whispered her truth, "I've never shared a bed." That whisper carried the weight of years spent alone, of nights where the walls echoed back only her own breath, of mornings where the pillow beside her was untouched. Her solitude was not a condition of weakness, but of endurance. She had carried it with dignity, but in her whisper lay the yearning of a soul that longed to be seen, to be cherished, to no longer face the night alone. And then, as though heaven itself had commanded it, came his promise, "Now you'll never sleep alone." That promise was no casual phrase. It was not a temporary assurance designed to soothe the moment. It was a declaration, a transformation, a sacred vow that rewrote the story of her life in a single breath. Understand this: the human heart does not thrive on possessions, nor does it flourish in the accumulation of wealth. The heart is nourished by assurance, by loyalty, by the certainty that another soul has joined its journey. When he spoke those words, he gave her more than companionship. He gave her a shield against the darkness of solitude. He gave her a foundation upon which to build trust. And trust, once planted, grows into the towering tree of love, under whose branches two souls may rest in safety. A promise is the currency of love. Without it, affection wavers like a flame in the wind. With it, affection burns like an eternal fire that no storm can extinguish. Consider how many people walk this earth surrounded by others, yet still feel the gnawing emptiness of loneliness. It is not the absence of people that creates solitude, but the absence of true promises. For what is loneliness but the fear that no one will remain, that no one will stay when trials come, that no one will honor the silent plea of the heart? And what is companionship but the knowledge that someone has vowed, "I am here, and I will not leave"? One word of promise, sincerely spoken, has the power to dissolve years of solitude. This is the miracle of commitment. History has shown us that the greatest leaders were those whose promises were kept, and the greatest failures were those whose promises were broken. A general who promises his soldiers victory and delivers it earns loyalty for life. A leader who promises justice but brings only corruption earns contempt. In love, it is no different. A man who promises devotion and lives by it commands the deepest respect of the woman who trusts him. A woman who promises loyalty and fulfills it becomes the unshakable foundation of her partner's soul. The world may crumble, fortunes may fade, but promises kept will remain as monuments of honor in the human heart. When he said, "Now you'll never sleep alone," he extended his hand into her solitude and pulled her into the light of companionship. Imagine, if you will, the transformation of that moment. Nights that once seemed endless now held the warmth of another's presence. The silence that once echoed became filled with the rhythm of shared breath. The bed that once symbolized emptiness became a sanctuary of connection. In a single promise, loneliness was defeated. This is the power. You must recognize that words backed by sincerity carry the ability to change a life, to turn despair into hope, and to plant joy where sorrow once dwelled. But let us go deeper. Why is a promise so powerful? Because a promise is faith embodied in speech. It is the unseen made visible, the intangible made real. When a man promises, "I will be there," he declares mastery over the uncertainty of tomorrow. When a woman promises, "I will love you," she declares victory over doubt and fear. The power of a promise lies not in the tongue that speaks it, but in the soul that upholds it. A broken promise is poison, but a kept promise is nourishment that strengthens the heart and gives it wings. Consider the lives of those who wander without faith in promises. They distrust words, doubt intentions, and suspect betrayal at every turn. Their solitude remains unbroken, even in the presence of others, because they believe no vow will endure. Their nights are restless, not for lack of bodies around them, but for lack of certainty within them. Yet the one who receives a promise and sees it fulfilled walks through life with a quiet strength, for they know they are not alone. Their solitude has been transformed, not by crowds, but by the unwavering presence of one who vowed to stay. Do you see, then, the sacred duty of a promise? When you give your word, you hold in your hands the very soul of another. To keep it is to nurture that soul into fullness. To break it is to shatter a heart and plunge it back into the cold waters of solitude. Therefore, do not speak lightly of promises. Do not offer them as trifles to soothe the moment. Speak them only when you mean them, but when you speak, bind your very life to them. For in keeping promises, you do not only transform another's solitude, you transform your own. You discover the profound joy of loyalty, the strength of honor, and the unshakable bond that only those who dare to vow can know. There are many who live alone even while married, who feel isolated even while surrounded by family, because their lives are built upon broken promises. The world is full of empty assurances, hollow commitments, and careless words that never bloom into action. But when one person dares to mean what they say, when one person dares to speak a promise and then live it as though it were law, they shine like a beacon in a world of shadows. They bring hope to hearts weary of disappointment. They become proof that love is not illusion, but reality. And through them, solitude is conquered. The woman who heard those words, "Now you'll never sleep alone," did not just receive comfort for the night. She received an anchor for her spirit. She received the knowledge that her vulnerability had not been wasted, that her trust had found safe harbor. Her solitude was transformed not because of the presence of a body beside her, but because of the presence of a vow that would endure beyond the night. This is the essence of companionship, not just physical nearness, but spiritual assurance. The body may falter, but the promise endures. The night may pass, but the vow remains. And in that vow lies the end of solitude. Every man and woman has the power to give this gift. You may not have riches, titles, or fame, but you have your word. And your word, when given with sincerity, can change the life of another. The poorest soul can still promise loyalty. The weakest body can still promise love. The humblest heart can still vow to stand by another. And in fulfilling such a promise, you gain wealth greater than gold, the wealth of shared life, shared love, shared eternity. Remember this eternal truth: solitude ends where promises begin. The woman whispered her truth and received a promise. The man spoke his vow and fulfilled her longing. In that exchange, two lives were transformed. So too can your life be transformed, and the lives of those you love, if you will dare to speak with sincerity and live by the power of your word. For when you promise with conviction, you become more than a companion, you become a protector of another's soul, a guardian of their peace, and the destroyer of their loneliness. There is no greater power than this. A promise transforms solitude. It is the key that unlocks the prison of isolation and sets the heart free to love, to trust, to live fully. And when you keep that promise, when you honor your word with every breath, you will not only end the loneliness of another, you will discover that you, too, are never alone. In every human life there are objects that appear simple, yet carry within them meanings far greater than their physical form. A house is not only wood and stone, it is the embodiment of safety, of belonging, of shelter from the storms of the world. A ring is not merely metal shaped into a circle, it is the symbol of eternity, of promises that have no end. And the bed, that common piece of furniture which all men and women know, is not merely a place to sleep. It is the altar of intimacy, the stage of companionship, the resting ground of trust. To understand the bed only as a frame of wood and a mattress of cloth is to miss its deepest significance. For the bed is a mirror of the soul's condition, whether alone or shared, cold or warm, empty or full. Consider the whisper, "I've never shared a bed." On the surface, it may appear to be nothing more than a statement about physical experience. Yet behind it is a lifetime of solitude, of nights endured without the comfort of another's presence. That bed, though soft and strong, was a symbol of isolation. It bore silent witness to dreams unspoken, tears unshed, hopes deferred. Each night it spoke the truth the world could not hear, that a soul slept alone when it longed to sleep in companionship. The bed became not a sanctuary, but a reminder of what was absent. It was a monument to loneliness. But when he answered, "Now you'll never sleep alone," he transformed not only her nights, but the meaning of the bed itself. No longer was it a symbol of emptiness, it became a symbol of union. No longer did it testify to absence, it now declared presence. The same bed, unchanged in material, was changed in essence. It was no longer wood and cloth, but a living testament to love, a sacred place where solitude had been conquered by togetherness. This is the power of symbols, they reflect the condition of our hearts, and when our hearts change, the symbols change with them. You must realize that life is full of such symbols. A man's empty wallet may seem like nothing but leather and thread, yet to him it can symbolize failure, despair, or missed opportunity. That same wallet, filled with abundance, can symbolize triumph and provision. A woman's kitchen table may seem like nothing but wood, yet it is the place where family bonds are strengthened, where prayers are spoken, where love is nourished. The bed, likewise, is never neutral. It is the space where the body rests, but more than that, it is the canvas upon which the soul paints its deepest emotions. When empty, it magnifies loneliness. When shared with love, it magnifies unity. The bed is also the one place where masks are removed. In the world, men and women wear the garments of pride, ambition, and defense. They move among others with practiced faces, speaking the language of strength and independence. But in the bed, at night, when the world has quieted, there are no masks. The body lies as it truly is, the soul breathes as it truly feels. The bed exposes the truth, whether we are comforted or restless, whether we feel safe or vulnerable, whether we are alone or accompanied. It is the most honest symbol of human life, for it does not lie. It reveals the reality of love or its absence. Think of the transformation that occurs when one who has long slept alone at last shares the bed with another. The silence once heavy becomes a symphony of shared breath. The cold once bitter becomes warmth. The night once feared becomes peace. This is no small thing, for in that change lies a spiritual victory. The bed ceases to be a reminder of loneliness and becomes a celebration of companionship. And when love is present, the bed becomes not just a place of rest, but a temple of trust. For to share a bed is to entrust your most vulnerable self to another, the self that sleeps, defenseless, unguarded, exposed. To allow another into that space is to declare, I trust you with my being. It is the highest form of intimacy. Yet how many beds in this world are shared but not united? How many couples lie side by side, but their hearts are miles apart? In such cases, the bed reveals another truth, that presence without promise is no companionship at all. A body beside you cannot cure loneliness if the soul is absent. True sharing of a bed requires more than proximity, it requires commitment, tenderness, and the willingness to honor the sacredness of that space. Otherwise, the bed becomes a battlefield, a place of tension, a symbol of betrayal. Remember this, the bed magnifies what already exists in the heart. If there is love, it will amplify love. If there is bitterness, it will amplify bitterness. If there is emptiness, it will echo that emptiness louder than any other space in life. This is why his words mattered. Now you'll never sleep alone was more than a promise of physical presence. It was a vow to transform the meaning of her bed, to make it a place of warmth, companionship, and safety. He did not simply offer his body beside hers, he offered his heart, his soul, his commitment. And that is why her solitude was ended. The bed, which had been a symbol of emptiness, became a symbol of fulfillment. Reflect upon this truth in your own life. The bed you sleep in tonight, what does it symbolize? Does it remind you of isolation, of nights endured in silence? Or does it speak of union, of trust, of promises kept? Do not dismiss this as mere imagination, for the symbols of life shape the way we live it. If your bed is cold and empty, it reflects not only your nights but the condition of your soul. If it is warm and shared with love, it reflects abundance and companionship. And if it is shared without love, it reflects dissonance and unrest. The bed never lies, it reveals what is hidden in the heart. Let us take this further. The bed is also the symbol of rest, and rest is essential not only to the body but to the spirit. A soul that sleeps alone in fear never truly rests, for the heart remains on guard even in slumber. But a soul that lies beside one it trusts surrenders fully, and in that surrender finds renewal. To share a bed with love is to share rest, to awaken refreshed not only in body but in soul. This is why solitude is so heavy, because it denies us the fullest rest. And this is why a promise transforms, because it brings rest not only to the flesh but to the spirit. The greatest leaders of history understood the power of symbols. They raised banners, built monuments, coined phrases that stirred hearts, because they knew that symbols shape belief. In love, too, the wise understand that the smallest acts carry symbolic weight. A kiss is more than lips upon lips, it is the symbol of affection. A hand held is more than fingers entwined, it is the symbol of unity. And a bed shared is more than bodies lying side by side, it is the symbol of trust and companionship. When you recognize this, you will never treat such things lightly, for to misuse a symbol is to wound the soul, but to honor it is to strengthen love. Do not mistake me, the bed is not the source of love. Love begins in the heart, in the whispered truth, in the spoken promise. But the bed is the place where love is lived, where promises are proved, where solitude is ended not by words alone but by presence made flesh. To share a bed with sincerity is to declare, I am here, I am yours, I will remain. That declaration, when honored, becomes the sweetest of human experiences, the kind that turns ordinary nights into sacred memories. So the woman who whispered, "I've never shared a bed," was not only confessing a physical fact. She was confessing the absence of this symbol in her life, the absence of trust, of companionship, of shared rest. And the man who promised, "Now you'll never sleep alone," was not only speaking of sharing space. He was offering her the transformation of that symbol, the conversion of loneliness into union, the redemption of her nights into peace. Together, in that exchange, they did not merely speak of a bed, they spoke of the essence of human connection. And this truth must be grasped: the greatest treasures of life are often hidden in the smallest symbols. To those who see only wood and cloth, the bed means nothing. But to the one who has slept alone for years, the bed is a silent witness of their longing. To the one who has been betrayed, the bed is the reminder of broken trust. To the one who has found true love, the bed is the throne of intimacy, the altar where vulnerability meets tenderness. The wise understand that when you honor the symbol, you honor the soul. When you misuse the symbol, you wound the soul. And when you transform the symbol, you transform the soul. Therefore, treat the bed not as ordinary, but as sacred. Enter it not only with your body, but with your promises. Share it not only with your presence, but with your loyalty. For in doing so, you make it more than furniture, you make it a monument of love. And when you whisper your truth, when you vow your promise, and when you keep that vow, you will discover what she discovered in that moment, that the bed, once a symbol of solitude, can become the eternal symbol of togetherness. And in that togetherness, life itself is renewed. There is a mistake that has haunted men and women since the beginning of time. They believe love must be earned by perfection, by flawless beauty, by wealth, by brilliance, by deeds so grand that they silence all doubt. They chase after the illusion that if they could become perfect, then they would deserve to be loved, and if they could find someone perfect, then they would never suffer disappointment. This pursuit has left countless souls empty, for perfection is an illusion, and those who chase illusions are forever unsatisfied. The truth, which only the wise discover, is that love is not built upon perfection. Love thrives upon presence. It is not the flawless face that sustains love, but the faithful hand that remains when storms arrive. It is not the perfect word, but the simple, "I am here," spoken when all others have gone. Think of the whisper that began this story, "I've never shared a bed." That was not the voice of perfection. It was the voice of vulnerability, of confessed need, of human frailty. Yet in that moment, perfection was not required. What mattered was presence. And so the man answered, "Now you'll never sleep alone." He did not say, "I am perfect." He did not say, "I will never fail." He said, "I will be here." And in that promise of presence, love was born. This is the law of the heart: love requires not the flawless, but the faithful. Look carefully at those who believe love demands perfection. They spend their lives polishing themselves like jewels, hiding every flaw, fearing every wrinkle, chasing every outward sign of success, hoping to appear worthy of affection. And yet, despite their efforts, they often remain alone, for they mistake admiration for love. Others, meanwhile, waste their days searching for a partner who meets every condition of their fantasy. They measure potential companions as one measures gold, discarding any who show the smallest imperfection. Yet even when they find beauty, brilliance, or wealth, they soon discover emptiness, for admiration fades, but presence endures. What they fail to see is that love is not an act of flawless performance, but of steadfast loyalty. Presence is the essence of true love. When a soul says, "I will be here when you fall, I will be here when you succeed, I will be here when you are radiant and when you are broken," that soul offers a gift greater than perfection. For perfection cannot be trusted, it is a mask that cracks under time. Presence, however, is the anchor that holds when storms rage, the foundation that does not crumble when tested. To love is not to promise perfection, but to promise presence. And to be loved is not to be worshipped as flawless, but to be cherished even in imperfection. Think of the bed once more, for it is the perfect symbol. The one who sleeps beside you does not remain because you are flawless in every way. They remain because they choose presence. The world may laugh at your flaws, the mirror may remind you of your aging, your efforts may fail, your words may falter, but if someone is there, lying beside you still, then you possess love greater than any perfection could offer. Presence is proof of devotion. For the world is filled with admirers who vanish when flaws appear, but true companions stay when you are weakest, when your soul trembles, when your dreams collapse. That is the mark of love. Not that they admired you when you were perfect, but that they remained when you were not. Presence is also the greatest healer of loneliness. Solitude is not ended by flawless beauty, nor by wealth, nor by genius. Solitude is ended by companionship, by the presence of one who whispers, "You will never sleep alone again." That is why his words transformed her life. He did not present her with a list of his qualities, nor did he claim to be the ideal man. He simply offered presence. And presence was enough to change emptiness into fullness. This truth must be written upon your heart: love does not demand perfection, but it cannot exist without presence. Observe the difference between those who live chasing perfection and those who live giving presence. The perfection seekers are restless, discontent, always comparing, always doubting, always disappointed. Their love is fragile, for it depends on illusions that cannot endure. The presence givers are steady, peaceful, unshaken by imperfections, for they know love is not about flawless appearances but about faithful companionship. Their love is enduring, for it is rooted in something real, the willingness to stay. And presence, unlike perfection, is a choice you can make each day, regardless of circumstance. You may not be perfect, but you can be present. You may not have wealth or beauty, but you can say, "I am here, and I will not leave." That is the highest form of love. You must also understand that presence is power. The greatest leaders in history inspired loyalty not by appearing perfect, but by being present with their people. A general who shares the hardships of his soldiers wins their devotion more deeply than a flawless strategist who watches from afar. A parent who is present in the life of a child leaves a legacy more powerful than one who provides every material thing but is absent in spirit. Likewise, a lover who is present, who remains, who shows up in times of joy and in times of pain, creates a bond stronger than one who dazzles with charm but disappears when needed most. Perfection impresses, presence transforms. The tragedy is that so many fail to see this. They abandon relationships because flaws appear, believing love has ended. They chase after others who seem more perfect, only to discover emptiness again. They hide their own imperfections, pretending to be flawless, and wonder why they are not truly known. But the wise know that love does not begin when perfection is found, it begins when presence is offered. The woman who whispered her loneliness did not need a flawless man. She needed a present one. And the man who answered did not promise perfection. He promised to remain. And in that exchange, love was made real. Think of your own life. Who are those who have remained present with you through joy and through pain? Who are those who saw your flaws and did not run? Who are those who held your hand when you were broken, who stood by your side when you failed, who stayed near when the world turned away? These are the ones who have loved you truly. And if you have such a one in your life, treasure them, for they are wealth beyond measure. And if you would be such a one for another, you will give the greatest gift that exists, the gift of presence. Perfection fades with time, but presence grows more precious with every year. The beauty of youth diminishes, but the beauty of presence shines brighter. Wealth may be lost, health may falter, but presence can endure until the last breath. That is why presence is greater than perfection, and why true love can only be built upon it. For when all else is gone, the one who remains, the one who is still there, the one who says with their life, "You will never be alone," is the one who has given you love in its purest form. So let the world chase perfection. Let them polish their masks and worship their illusions. But you, if you would know true love, chase presence. Give it freely, receive it gratefully, and understand that it is the rarest treasure on earth. For presence is not demanded by perfection, but offered by choice. And when it is offered, it transforms life itself. The woman who whispered her truth discovered it in a single promise. You, too, may discover it, if you will stop demanding perfection and start honoring presence. For love, in the end, is not about flawless lives lived in fantasy, but about imperfect souls who choose to remain present, through every storm, through every flaw, through every night. And in that presence lies the greatest perfection of all. Loneliness is the silent destroyer of the human spirit. It creeps into the lives of men and women alike, not always with thunderous announcements, but often with the quiet ache of emptiness, the unseen weight that presses upon the heart. It whispers in the stillness of the night when the bed feels too large, when the silence echoes louder than words, when the soul longs for the presence of another and finds only absence. Many have tried to battle loneliness with distractions, with work, with pleasures, with achievements, and with riches, but no matter how great the distractions, loneliness remains undefeated until companionship enters the scene. For it is not activity that cures loneliness, nor wealth, nor admiration. It is companionship, the knowing that you are not alone, the assurance that someone sees you, someone hears you, someone stays with you. Consider again the story of the woman who whispered, "I've never shared a bed." That single confession contained years of unspoken solitude. It was not simply the absence of another body beside her, it was the absence of companionship in her life. She had perhaps walked among crowds, spoken to many, played her part in the world. But none of that erased the loneliness within her heart. For loneliness is not about the absence of people. It is about the absence of true companionship. You may be surrounded by multitudes and still feel utterly alone. And you may be in a quiet room with only one other person and feel completely whole. The difference lies not in numbers, but in connection. When he answered her, "Now you'll never sleep alone," he offered not merely the sharing of a bed, but the sharing of life. In those words was the promise of companionship, the power to break the chains of loneliness and to transform solitude into togetherness. And this is a power you must recognize, for it is one of the greatest forces of the human experience. Loneliness divides, weakens, and destroys. Companionship heals, strengthens, and builds. The choice to offer companionship is among the noblest choices a person can make, for it is the act of standing beside another soul and declaring, "Your life will not be lived in isolation, for I am here." The tragedy of our age is that so many live surrounded by noise and yet live without companionship. They mistake constant communication for true connection. They mistake admiration for love, attention for intimacy, popularity for friendship. And in their mistake, they remain lonely. What the heart seeks is not endless distraction but real companionship, the presence of one who does not merely see you as useful, but sees you as worthy. The human soul longs for someone to share its victories and its defeats, its laughter and its tears, its hopes and its fears. Without that sharing, life feels hollow. With it, even the simplest existence feels rich. Understand this law: loneliness is not broken by possessions, by pleasures, by accomplishments. It is broken only by companionship. The poor man with companionship is richer than the wealthy man who sits in a mansion alone. The humble woman who shares her days with a devoted soul is wealthier than the queen who is admired by thousands but known by none. Loneliness is the poverty of the heart. Companionship is its wealth. Now consider how companionship breaks loneliness. It does so not by removing every trial, nor by erasing every hardship, but by changing the meaning of those hardships. When you suffer alone, your pain seems unbearable, for you carry its full weight in silence. But when another is present, when another says, "I will carry this burden with you," the weight lessens, the load feels lighter, and the soul finds strength. Companionship multiplies joy and divides sorrow. The joys you hold in solitude may feel fleeting, but when you share them with a companion, they grow. The sorrows you endure alone may feel crushing, but when shared, they shrink. This is the miracle of companionship. It transforms the mathematics of life. And companionship does not demand perfection, wealth, or brilliance. It demands presence, sincerity, loyalty. Loneliness ends not when someone perfect arrives, but when someone real stays. The woman who confessed her loneliness did not need a flawless man, she needed a present one. And when she heard the words, "Now you'll never sleep alone," she heard the beginning of companionship. That was enough to turn the emptiness of her nights into fullness. For once you know you are not alone, even the darkest night loses its terror. Look to the history of great men and women, and you will find this truth repeated. No man has achieved greatness in isolation. Behind every towering figure of history, there was companionship: the wife, the husband, the friend, the mentor, the confidant. Napoleon had Josephine. Lincoln had Mary, but more than that, he had trusted companions who stood beside him when the nation tore itself apart. Every leader, every thinker, every dreamer who changed the world was sustained by companionship. For when the loneliness of responsibility bore down upon them, it was companionship that gave them courage to endure. Loneliness makes men weak, companionship makes them strong. But companionship is not only the privilege of the great. It is the birthright of every soul. The factory worker who comes home to a loving partner is wealthier in spirit than the king who dines alone. The elderly woman who shares a cup of tea with a faithful friend knows a joy deeper than the celebrity adored by millions but truly known by none. Companionship is the great equalizer. It gives dignity to the humble and joy to the weary. It makes life livable not through grandeur, but through presence. Do not underestimate the destructive power of loneliness. It erodes health, it steals hope, it blinds ambition. Men and women who might have risen to greatness have sunk into despair because they walked alone. But do not underestimate the healing power of companionship either. It restores health, rekindles hope, ignites ambition. Many who might have given up found the strength to continue because someone was there, because someone whispered, "You are not alone." Think of how many lives have been saved from despair by the simple presence of a companion. Think of how many dreams have survived because someone believed, someone stayed, someone cared. The gift of companionship is within your power to give. You need not be wealthy or flawless or extraordinary. You need only to be present, to say to another, "I see you, I hear you, I will not leave you alone." That gift costs nothing, yet it is worth more than all the treasures of the earth. And when you give it, you also receive it, for companionship is a bond that blesses both giver and receiver. The one who gives companionship finds their own loneliness eased, their own spirit lifted. The one who receives it finds their emptiness filled. Thus companionship is not only a cure for loneliness, but a cycle of blessing that enriches all involved. Consider also that companionship must be chosen daily. It is not a single act but a continual presence. To truly break loneliness, one must remain. The promise, "Now you'll never sleep alone," was not meant for one night, but for all nights. Companionship is not measured by grand declarations, but by steady presence, by showing up again and again, by proving through time that loneliness is ended because you will not leave. The power of companionship lies in its constancy. The world tells many lies, and one of its cruelest is that success, wealth, or admiration will end loneliness. But the truth is simpler: companionship ends loneliness. To the one who has it, even the humblest existence feels abundant. To the one without it, even the grandest life feels barren. Choose companionship, give it freely, treasure it deeply. For in companionship lies the answer to the heart's cry, the cure to the soul's ache, the transformation of emptiness into fullness. The woman's whisper was a confession of loneliness. The man's reply was the offering of companionship. In that exchange, loneliness was broken. And so it is with every life. When one soul dares to confess, "I am alone," and another dares to respond, "You are not alone anymore," a miracle occurs. That miracle is companionship, and it is stronger than wealth, stronger than admiration, stronger than perfection. It is the force that heals, the force that sustains, the force that makes life worth living. If you would know true joy, do not seek perfection, do not chase endless wealth, do not depend upon admiration. Seek companionship. Build it. Give it. Protect it. For in companionship lies the secret that turns loneliness into belonging, emptiness into abundance, despair into hope. And when you offer it, when you keep it, when you live it, you become a light in the life of another, just as the man became a light to the woman who had never shared a bed. His promise, "Now you'll never sleep alone," was more than comfort for a single night. It was the breaking of loneliness itself. And that is the greatest gift one human being can ever give to another. At the core of every human heart lies a desire so deep, so unshakable, that it transcends age, culture, wealth, and station. It is the desire to be connected. From the moment we first breathe to the hour we take our last, we are driven by the need to belong, to be seen, to be heard, to be valued by another soul. You may call it love, you may call it companionship, you may call it friendship or kinship, but at its root it is the same longing. All people, whether kings or beggars, whether wise or foolish, whether strong or weak, share this universal hunger for connection. It is the thread that unites humanity, the law that governs the heart, the silent truth that no man or woman can escape. You may build towers of success, amass treasures, command armies, or write your name across the pages of history, but if you do it in isolation, if you do it without connection, you will find yourself hollow. The applause of the world cannot replace the warmth of one soul who truly knows you. The admiration of thousands cannot satisfy the hunger that only companionship feeds. For connection is not about numbers, but about depth. You may have 1,000 admirers and still feel starved. You may have one companion and feel complete. Connection is the substance, everything else is shadow. When the woman whispered, "I've never shared a bed," she was voicing this universal longing. She was not confessing weakness, but revealing humanity. She was not alone in her need, she was a mirror of us all. Every man and woman has felt that emptiness in some form, the sense of being unseen, unheard, unknown. And when the man replied, "Now you'll never sleep alone," he was not simply speaking to her, but to the universal condition of humanity. He was declaring the answer that every heart longs to hear: you are not alone, you are connected, you are valued. That is why his words carried such power. They echoed the great truth that to be human is to seek connection, and to find it is to taste the richest joy life offers. You must recognize this law if you are to understand yourself and others. People may pretend to be independent, to need no one, to stand alone. They may boast of their strength, their solitude, their ability to endure without aid. But beneath the mask, the longing remains. The strongest man craves someone who will see beyond his armor. The proudest woman longs for someone who will know her beyond her triumphs. Even the one who says, "I need no one," says it with a secret ache, for every soul is wired with the hunger to connect. It is not weakness, it is design. Just as lungs were made for air, hearts were made for connection. And see how this longing drives the course of human history. Nations rise and fall because of the need for connection. Wars are fought when people feel separated, forgotten, unheard. Revolutions begin when masses cry for recognition. Art is created because the soul must express itself and be understood. Songs are sung to bridge the silence between one heart and another. Even inventions are born of this desire, for what is communication technology but a striving to connect across distance? Every achievement of mankind is, at its root, an attempt to answer the loneliness of the human condition. The poet writes, the scientist discovers, the builder constructs, all with the hope that someone, somewhere, will share in the vision, will understand, will connect. But while history shows us the longing, it also shows us the deception. Too often, men and women chase false connections. They seek to fill the void with shallow approval, with fleeting pleasures, with crowds who cheer but never know their name. They mistake attention for connection, applause for intimacy, popularity for love. And when the applause fades, when the crowd moves on, when the lights dim, they discover the truth: they are still alone. For connection cannot be purchased with charm or status. It cannot be faked, it cannot be mass-produced. True connection is forged only in authenticity, in vulnerability, in presence. It is one soul saying to another, "I see you as you are, and I remain." That is the only answer to the universal longing. Consider how children reveal this truth. A child does not crave riches or perfection from a parent. A child craves connection. The child says with every look, every cry, every laugh, "See me, know me, stay with me." And if that connection is given, the child thrives, even in humble circumstances. If that connection is withheld, the child suffers, even in luxury. Adults are no different, though they learn to disguise their longing. Deep down, every adult still cries out, "See me, know me, stay with me." It is the universal voice of the heart, no matter how cleverly hidden. This is why presence is greater than perfection, and why companionship is the cure to loneliness. For connection is born not of flawless performance, but of authentic presence. You do not connect with another by dazzling them with perfection, but by offering yourself as you are. You do not satisfy your longing by finding someone flawless, but by finding someone willing to share life with you. The woman's whisper was imperfect, it was vulnerable. The man's reply was simple, it was not polished. Yet in that exchange, connection was formed, and loneliness was broken. That is the model for all humanity. We connect not through illusions, but through reality. Not through perfection, but through presence. You must also see the practical power of connection. Connection strengthens ambition, multiplies joy, and sustains endurance. The isolated man may begin a task with fire, but his flame will falter without connection. The connected man may begin with only a spark, but with companionship, his flame grows until it becomes a roaring blaze. For connection is the fuel of perseverance. Why do soldiers fight more bravely when their brothers are beside them? Why do athletes push harder when cheered on by teammates? Why do dreamers dare more when supported by a single believer? It is because connection magnifies courage. No man conquers the world alone. Every victory is born of connection. And yet, connection is fragile. It must be cultivated, protected, valued. Too many neglect it, chasing instead the false gods of wealth and status. They sacrifice connection on the altar of ambition, and when their ambition is achieved, they find themselves wealthy but alone, admired but empty. The wise know better. They treasure connection above all, for they understand that at the end of life, it is not the trophies or riches or fame that matter, but the faces of those with whom they shared their days. Many a wealthy man has confessed on his deathbed that he would trade his fortune for a few more moments of true connection. Remember this and live accordingly. Seek connection first, and you will never feel poor. There is also a spiritual dimension to connection. The longing for connection with others is a reflection of the greater longing for connection with the infinite. Just as no man is complete without human companionship, no man is complete without a sense of belonging to something larger, something eternal. The same law applies. The soul longs to be known, to be valued, to be embraced not only by other souls, but by the source of all existence. This is why faith endures across cultures and ages. It is why people seek the divine, not only out of fear, but out of longing. For the heart whispers, I was made for connection, and it seeks that connection in both the human and the eternal. Understand this and you will live more wisely. Do not deny your longing for connection, nor despise it as weakness. It is the mark of your humanity, the design of your Creator, the secret of your strength. Embrace it. Honor it. Seek it not in shallow admiration, but in true companionship. Offer it not only to those you love romantically, but to all whose paths you cross. For when you give connection, when you truly see, truly hear, truly remain, you fulfill the universal law of the heart, and in doing so, you will discover your own fulfillment. The woman's whisper was one voice of loneliness. The man's promise was one voice of connection. But together, they speak to the world. They teach us that every heart cries for the same thing, and every soul is healed in the same way. Connection is the answer. It is the thread that ties us one to another, the bridge that spans the chasm of isolation, the fire that warms the coldest night. Without it, life is barren. With it, even the humblest existence is rich. So remember this law as you walk through life. All people long for connection. Do not be fooled by masks of pride or power. Beneath them lies the same longing you feel. Offer connection wherever you can. Receive it gratefully whenever it is given. For in the end, connection is the only wealth that endures, the only success that satisfies, the only treasure that cannot be stolen. To be connected is to be human fulfilled. To be disconnected is to be human diminished. Choose connection, live connection, give connection. For in that choice lies the secret of joy, the cure for loneliness, the fulfillment of the universal longing that unites us all.